Hey there, it's Thomas Mangum with the Speakers Resource Center. Bob and I are so thrilled to have Melissa and Stephen with us again today. Now, if you didn't make it to the Leadership and Communications Expo in February, you missed out on one of the most popular sessions that we got feedback on. And so Bob and I wanted to invite Melissa and Stephen to come back and do a recap for those of you that didn't get to make it to Leadership and Communications Expo. Don't worry, they're going to bring exactly all the energy, the slides, and the info they brought when they came in February. They're bringing it right back to our recording here, and hopefully it'll be a really nice, clean, concise recording for you guys, so you get something to keep and refer back to. I'm super thrilled because I was in a different session when Melissa and Stephen were giving their presentation at least. And with that, I'm just going to turn it over to them, and I'll jump in here and there. But really, I want to make this their show and make good use of your time. Thanks so much, guys, for coming back and doing this for our audience.
Awesome. Happy
right
to be
on,
here.
man. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Appreciate, first of all, being a part of LACE, and then also being able to reconnect with you guys after the event. It's great to continue the relationship.
Absolutely. So what we're chatting about here, guys, is how to create and monetize your podcast. And, you know, podcasting is such a huge medium these days, and you can literally reach billions of people with your voice just by doing a couple neat little tricks and a couple of neat little things that we're going to show you down this presentation.
And I think that it's important to just straight up front talk about how this is important for personal branding too. It's
right.
It's a really a great way to be able to grow your personal brand and reach people that you were never able to reach before, but we'll get into that a little bit more.
So we have a free gift for you if you stay into the end. You know, Melissa mentioned personal branding, and we are really big on personal branding. You know, we feel that it is the ticket to financial and lifestyle freedom for the rest of your life. And oftentimes we talk about branding yourself, not just for today or tomorrow, but literally for life. And so we have a free gift at the end if you stay with us. It'll help you on your journey of branding yourself. So first and foremost, guys, you know, our goal here today is we want to show you how you can differentiate your brand from your competitors leveraging podcasting. And I know that's something as marketers and branders that we're always looking to do is to differentiate. And we're always looking to see how, oh, Melissa's going crazy with those slides, how we can, you know, leverage new mediums to really cut through the noise, because there's a lot of noise out there. So if you didn't get the gist, I'm Melissa. No, wait a second. I'm Steven. You're Melissa. That's what it is. We are a married couple. We live and work together, and we travel together. And actually, cool little tidbit of information. Currently, we are in Divide, Colorado on month 6 of a 13-month journey, basically around Europe and the United States.
Yep, exactly.
So we're all about this lifestyle. So what it is that we really do, and what it is, you know, besides having a podcast, and we love having a podcast, but our core tenets is we are brand and marketing consultants. So we really help small to medium-sized brands and entrepreneurs make smarter branding and marketing decisions.
Because there is a ton of white noise out there. There's a lot of shiny, bright new objects. And how do you know what strategy and campaign is the right for your brand? And hopefully that's what we can provide through our podcast, and that's why we podcast, and that's why we connect with entrepreneurs and small businesses like yourself, to be able to help you cut through that white noise.
Because there's a lot of it. So Melissa, don't you give a little bit about who you are?
Great, awesome. So I'm Melissa. I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I spent the last 8 years before traveling in San Diego, which is beautiful, and I love it. And I'm looking at Thomas right now and his background, and it's 35 degrees out here. And
it's about to snow.
It's about to snow for the next 2 days. But I'm a SCORE mentor. If you're not familiar with SCORE, it's a small business mentorship that is across the country, and I help the San Diego sector through mentorship. I do
email?
Workshops. Yeah, I do workshops and webinars, and I go to their events and I help them out. I'm also a member of Founder Society, which actually just switched over to YEC Next, which is the Young Entrepreneurs Club. I'm the co-host of The Creative Hustler. I'm the co-founder of Latin Code, which is our main consultancy. And I'm also a strategic advisor with the Agency Guy, where we help matchmake the leads that we can't take on through Latin and Code. And we find them the right agencies depending on scope of work, capabilities, location, personality. And then also I'm a member of Toastmasters 7, or I was all last year. So, yeah.
I'm Steven. I am Melissa's other half. So a little bit about me. I'm an adjunct instructor over at Drexel University in Philadelphia for branding and marketing theory. Like Melissa, I'm the co-founder of Latin Code. I'm also a strategic advisor with the Agency Guy. I'm also a director of marketing, CMO position with OpenEye Global, which is a digital experience design agency, as well as a co-host of 2 podcasts, one of them being The Creative Hustler with this gal, and the other one being Coffee Talk, the podcast, which focuses on design agencies and how we can bring experiential design into the world.
Physical spaces.
Into physical spaces. So you can see over here, these are our 2 podcasts, and collectively, we're talking tens of thousands of downloads, amazing conversations, and really the opportunity to open doors that we never thought possible. So for a second, guys, I just want you all to imagine just for 1 minute being able, like I just said, to start an easy conversation with the opener of,
"You'd be perfect on my podcast."
I mean, the power right there, that when you could tell someone that is...
People, it's flattery. People get flattered. They're like, "I would be perfect for your podcast. You want to interview me for your media outlet?" Absolutely. We've been to multiple marketing events and events just across the country this year alone. And a lot of the opening conversations that we have are, "We would really love to have you on the podcast." And that eases people. When you're meeting people at networking events, they're like high strung, like, who am I going to meet? Who am I going to connect with? It opens the conversation up very easy. "Oh, we have a podcast. You'd be great on that."
And I think it comes down to, especially, at a networking event, when you're meeting someone, everyone is always looking for, well, what can you do for me? What can you do for me? Well, instead, let's turn that around and say, well, what can I do for you? How can I get you on my podcast and give you my audience? How can I give you the opportunity to share your story? It really becomes a very, very powerful thing to have in your tool belt. Because again, if you're able to do that, imagine the influencers in your industry that you can connect with now. We've been able to connect with so many people that might have seemed unreachable if we didn't have the podcast. I mean, we're talking about Grammy award-winning musicians. We're talking about award-winning podcasts. I mean, Entrepreneur on Fire and that whole crew. Kate Erickson.
Peter Simcotti, who is a Grammy award-winning jazz musician.
We've been able to connect with all these people because we're here to try to add value. And in a world where, Melissa said it in the beginning, full of white noise, where we live in a give me society, what are you going to do for me? Give me, give me, give me, give me, give me. By turning those tables around and trying to add value, well, now you're having a whole different conversation. And when trying to expand your brand, or whether it's your personal brand or a corporate brand, it's all about being able to connect with like-minded individuals. And that's where the podcast comes into play, because it gives you a platform to do that.
And just to expand on that, it gives you a way to connect with your audience on a personal level, not just your influencers. It gives your audience a behind the scenes of your personality, who you are, what your hustle is, and what you're all about.
Also, I mean, imagine, if you're not an entrepreneur, if you are in just a business setting, you climbing that corporate ladder, imagine the colleagues that you could foster the relationships with to grow the brand, to grow the business. It goes without saying that people love to talk about themselves. It goes without saying that people love to hear themselves talk. So give them that opportunity, as long as you, as a podcast host, can rein in the cats and make sure that you stay within the parameters you set. But by giving them that opportunity, I mean, again, the relationship that you're going to be able to foster is unimaginable. Perfect example. We interviewed a gal maybe a year and a half ago. We happened to be in New York.
Nicole
Aloya happened to be in New York. We said, hey, let's grab a drink. Next thing you know, we went to 2 events with her at WeWork. interviewed maybe 3 people that we've met from that event on our podcast and actually closed business from that exact meeting. And that would not have happened if we did not foster this relationship with a colleague of ours that we had on the podcast. So I hope you're starting to see just, the momentum that
we didn't know Nicole before the podcast either. I think maybe you might have been a part of a group
a mastermind with her.
But we didn't know her before that. I mean, our relationship started because we had a conversation through the podcast, and our relationship just continued to grow over the next year. So podcasting can be very powerful.
So powerful that, Melissa, what kind of opportunities can that create?
Whoop, whoop.
I mean, it goes without saying business development. Listen,
Yeah. So we've closed deals from
closed deals
from the networking events that we went to with Nicole,
because we interviewed her on the podcast.
And
I'm also going to go on a limb here. No matter what position you are in your industry, whether you work for a corporation and you're climbing that corporate ladder, or you're an entrepreneur, you are in the business of business development. You have to be. We are all salespeople. And for those that are saying, well, I'm just not good at sales, you are stunting your growth. And you are stunting where you can take yourself around this world. Because having this podcast is an awesome way to develop business. It's also an amazing way to build your brand, whether that's a personal brand or a corporate brand, by being consistent with pushing out the right message to your right audience at the right time. You are now creating your own position, your own unique space within the industry that you can stand on and say, this is my ownable space.
Yeah, and that's how you can put your voice out there and get your brand out there, your personal brand out there. I mean, even if you have a corporate job and you go home at the end of the day and you talk about operations in that corporate brand, a lot of people are wondering how operations work. I mean, a lot of corporations are good, a lot of corporations are bad. And if you can lend a voice saying, hey, and this is just one small example. Hey, I just came home. This is why operations work in our company. As an employee, this is what I see to be true and to work. So you don't have to be an entrepreneur or a multi-billionaire to be able to put your voice out there. You can just be somebody who goes home after work and says, you know what, I got a lot to say and I know other people would like to hear this.
With that, guys, comes sales and revenue. And let me just ask you, who hates making sales? Who hates that word revenue? I know I don't. I know Melissa doesn't. Thomas is raising his hand, but that's only because he's, feet up in San Diego right now. But like podcasting, while it may not directly lead to an ROI, it indirectly is going to lead to an ROI. And we see that. But there is a pendulum, there is a paradigm shift in there with your podcast to where one day you're going to wake up and the podcast itself is making you money because of downloads, because of the audience you've created, because of a slew of things.
Mm-hmm. And just to kind of jump on, you said indirectly make sales, but you can also directly make sales, and that's from sponsorships. And we actually have a couple of sponsorships, so we're going to get into that a little bit more. I just wanted to note that and just make sure.
Also, what a podcast brings is the idea of talent acquisition. I also am a co-host of a design and branding, I guess you could say, podcast, and we get a lot of people connecting with us about wanting to get a job, or, hey, I'm a new designer. Can you steer me in the right direction? Or do you know any agencies that are hiring? It's amazing to be able to connect the next generation with the current generation through a podcast because you're building trust and credibility with them. And then the final thumbprint, it just goes without saying, the global network expansion that you can put together. Melissa and I have podcasted in Germany, podcasted in Italy, in Sicily, in a handful, maybe 20 U.S. cities or 15 U.S. cities. Mm-hmm. And with doing so, we've created such an expansive network that we can go to these places and we have friends. And it's amazing how that's been able to happen just by the podcast.
And not just being in those places have we done the podcast, but we've also interviewed people from those places, from Sicily, from Italy, from Germany, from London. What was that one guy who was in the middle of absolutely nowhere? He had to go to a coffee shop like 3 miles away.
Oh yeah, he was in Myanmar. Or you might know it as Burma, depending on what kind of history book you've read.
Exactly.
So now we're going to get to the meat and potatoes, guys. So why podcasting? I mean, we kind of went over it, but like really, why podcasting? It is an amazing tactic to accelerate your personal brand, build influence, and foster a worldwide audience. And get this is the best part. You could do it from anywhere in the world. You could do it literally from your phone in the mountains if you really wanted to. If that was like really what you were into and that was what your podcast was about, you could absolutely make it work. And we've seen this firsthand. And guys, when it works so well, and it opens up so many doors. Because look, there are so many amazing people who podcast, and you don't have to be on the top of that chain. You don't need to be Snoop Dogg or Lewis Howes or Tony Robbins. You could just be Stephen and Melissa with an opinion, or Thomas with an opinion, who has an audience and wants to share their insights, and we could push it out there. And that's what's powerful about podcasting. Also, goes without saying, but you can make a ton of money with podcasting when you get the formula right. There are top podcasters out there that are making upwards of $200,000 a month. Oh my God, that's unfathomable. And they don't make it directly from just by having the podcast. It's what the podcast leads to. And that's what the most dynamic part about podcasting is not the actual art of making a radio show, but it's what that radio show can then bring into your circle, because you become a publishing platform. And in 2018, we all have the opportunity to be a publishing platform. Mm-hmm. It's not just made for the New York Times or the BuzzFeeds out there. If you have an internet connection and opinion, and you can curate some content and create content, you are officially a publishing platform. So why aren't you doing this now in 2018? Why are you not taking the steps to really solidify your personal brand for life by starting a podcast? Again, guys, we're going to keep hitting this. So why podcasting? Multiple income streams. Melissa mentioned it earlier. We have a couple sponsors for our shows.
Yep.
But that's not the only way we make money with the podcast.
No, indirectly a lot.
Indirectly a lot. Melissa had mentioned in the beginning that we are both strategic advisors with the agency guy, matchmaking brands and agencies. A lot of times we are talking with entrepreneurs, with business owners. We have them on the podcast, we interview them, and then afterwards they're like, guys, I love what you guys are about. I'm loving everything that you guys are into. Can I work with you? Melissa and I are very, very specific on who we work with and the types of brands and companies we want to work with, but that doesn't mean that we still can't help. So we play this matchmaker role, and by doing so, we've just created another stream of income. So now we have the sponsorship stream of income, we have the matchmaking stream of income, and then we also get this opportunity to help other podcasters and other entrepreneurs solidify their personal brand. They hear about us on the podcast and say, guys, can you help me do what you're doing? So now we've just created another stream of income, which is essentially coaching. So that's just 3 minor streams of income, but when Warren Buffett says that the average millionaire has 7 streams of income, I like to think that we're almost halfway there, only because we're leveraging what we already have and just being smart and strategic with it. Mm-hmm. So in talking about sponsorships, you could do commercials, and there are no wrong answers here, right, Melissa? It doesn't have to be a 15-second or a 30-second or a 60-second, but the industry
I wouldn't go any further than 90 seconds. Although Tim Ferriss has he does a whole, I think it's like 2 to 5 minutes in the beginning where he just goes over all of his sponsors and he talks about everybody that sponsors the podcast, which I think is a little bit extreme.
But he has the audience.
He has the audience, and a lot of people, he's an influencer, so people use his
his influence for their brand.
Yeah.
So when we're selling commercial slots for our sponsors, and we're usually looking at a 30, a 60, a 90-second pre-roll that will play either before the episode or during the episode. There's also, we get creative with it. What about banner advertising? We have great traffic to our website. So maybe we will slap on a banner, or maybe we will have a sidebar ad that also promotes the same thing that we're talking about in the podcast. And then also, this is something that is truly a newer phenomenon over the last couple of years, but influencer marketing, social shout-outs. We may have close to 8,000 Instagram fans, and that is nowhere near what the Kardashians are getting, but we still get inquiries, but hey, we feel our product might really resonate with your audience. what does it cost for you guys to do a shout out? So it's creating another sponsorship opportunity, another opportunity to promote our brand and their brand. And here's something that's even cooler. The secret that I didn't want to say, and I told Melissa I wasn't going to say it, but I'll say it anyway. It allows you the opportunity to connect with those influencers that you actually want to kind of side door in as a sponsor by saying, hey, I'll get you a spot on the podcast. We'll interview you, and then we could talk afterwards. So now they come on the podcast, and now we could drop the fact that, hey, we have some sponsorship opportunity. I think that might be perfect for you. Kind of goes with Gary Vaynerchuk's jab, jab, punch. We're going to give them a couple freebies, a couple value, and then we're going to hit them with a real big call to action to try to get them into our family, into our circle. Affiliates. This might be like Melissa's favorites right here. She loves affiliates.
Doing affiliates with,
Products you represent.
Yeah, and I'm a huge fan of only using products and marketing products that we actually use or are comfortable with, have a relationship with. We know the people in-house. We have a couple that we use. We have Doodle Books. We have SEM Rush, which is a marketing tool.
That we use specifically. And we vet them. And, we want to make sure that their standards are the same standards that our audience has, because at all times we're here for nurturing our audience.
And this has to be complementary to your audience and who's actually listening. So our audience is entrepreneurs, early and new budding entrepreneurs, creatives,
business owners,
and a lot of people who are on the go, digital nomads. So they need easy tools to be able to use on their phone, on the go, and those are the types of products that we have affiliates with the podcast.
Also, you make money by direct sales. So by building an audience, and this is kind of audience nurturement 101, don't sell to a cold audience something you don't know that they want. First, get the audience into your ecosystem and listen to them. And listen to what their wants and needs are, where their pain points are, where their challenges are, and create products that your audience wants and needs. They're going to tell you, we would love this. Perfect example, we realized our audience with The Creative Hustler, which is our podcast, they really wanted mindset training, and they really wanted to know how to leverage a positive mindset to be able to, slay their own personal dragon so they can enter the road of entrepreneurship. So we listened to them, and we created a guide on having a growth mindset for entrepreneurs. And that would not have happened if we didn't listen to our audience's wants and needs.
And how we figured out what they wanted was, we have a call to action in our podcast that says, connect with us through the website, The Creative Hustler, and we built up an audience that way in our email list. And then when we got the email list to a certain amount and we were sending out emails and we weren't really sure what was going on with our click-through rates, they were a little bit low, we decided to take a survey. And we said, okay, you know what do you guys want? Because this is what we're hearing out there in the market, but what do you guys who are in our email list really want from us?
Yeah.
And so we gave them a survey.
Incentivized them.
We incentivized them. We gave them a free gift.
Gift cards, something like that.
And we said, if you give this survey to us, one of a few people will be lucky winners. And we got a lot of feedback, and a lot of the feedback was they want growth mindset for being an entrepreneur. What kind of mindset and growth tactics within themselves do they need to be a better entrepreneur?
And so far, that book has been extremely successful, and it wouldn't have happened without us, surveying our audience and really taking the time to nurture them.
And I think the important thing is the call to action in your podcasting when you are starting to see the audience grow and the traction come in, doing calls to action so that you can actually connect with these people. Otherwise, they're just listening to you talking out there to the wind. So you want to be able to.
Can I add something there, Melissa?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to jump in on that one because, this is great. I love that you're breaking these down, as the sponsorships and then the direct feedback and direct, the affiliate marketing and all of that. It's one of the reasons that we're even having you guys over. And it's one of the reasons that I'm really excited, because I'm thinking of one particular person that we work with at Speakers Resource Center that specifically wants this. That's not everybody that follows a Speakers Resource Center. Not everybody wants to develop a whole brand. Some just want to can I just speak every week and be somewhere,
Yeah.
And then for others, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. Some people don't want to work all the time. It's like, I want to be a speaker occasionally, but I want to be able to, how can I travel the world? How can I create some financial independence? And that's, I think, part of what you are showing is that it's not just about building a brand to build a brand, but how do you build a lifestyle?
Right.
And that's what I'm seeing here. And with the audience, it's just like, and I'm speaking to my friends in the Speakers Resource Center that's watching this right now, is how do Bob and I know the right people to bring to you and the resources and the content is when you're giving feedback. I mean, it's funny. You're talking about call to action, and I'm giving a call to action is exactly what would make a dramatic difference in where you are right now. Give us the feedback. And this is, you guys, Melissa and Stephen, are part of the feedback.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
I don't
well,
think.
Thank you guys for the feedback.
Great feedback. I don't think enough businesses, listen to their audience enough. And I think it's.
They guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They guess. I mean, how many times have you been in, it's so funny. I mean, how many times have you been in a meeting and the companies are like, man, what would our audience like? What would our community like right now? Have you asked?
Yeah.
Have you tried something? Have you pressed a button?
Right.
And
then that comes a million different excuses.
It comes down to brainstorming. I mean, and it's not brainstorming what you think they would want. It's brainstorming ways to reach out to them. So how can we reach out to our
Because there's not
audience?
One method that's going to reach everyone.
Right.
Some people may respond to email, some may respond to social, some may respond. Listen, when we do a lot of work with brick and mortars and physical retail, let's just take retail. A great way to get client feedback is stand at the cash register with a clipboard and ask them some questions.
Yep.
As elementary as that is, it
still works.
So powerful. It still works. You want that really constructive feedback from the source. And I don't care what stage you are in your business, even if you're a billionaire, you still need to listen to your audience, because you won't be a billionaire much longer the minute you just strap on that ego suit and say, well, I've made it. My audience doesn't matter anymore. Guess what? You went from 3 commas to 2 commas like this.
Yeah.
I'd love to add something. I want to ask one of the how-to questions that I've heard about when folks came out of your workshop and as I'm watching, I'm like, well, how do I do this? How do I do this? And I want to speak to you guys can expand upon this, obviously, but it's like, well, we're talking about how to monetize all this, but what do I talk about? And what do I get started with? Guys, I'd love your feedback on this. Some of my recommendation to some folks that are they hadn't really considered starting a podcast. What do I podcast about? What do I talk about? Why don't you start with something that you're passionate about? And because it's always a test to some degree. I've always found in my personal experience, I know Bob has found this and some of the clients that we worked with, is sometimes you don't know until you know.
Yep.
And I know it sounds crazy. But for my friends that are super perfectionist and they're hyper analytical, I didn't know either. I started a radio show years ago called Virtual Coffee, which is very interesting with your podcast, the coffee talk. This is years ago. And I just knew that I loved what happened when you sat down with someone, on the phone, that is, and you just talked over coffee. Talks about just different things that are going on. I know that sounds very unplanned, but for folks listening right now, is if you're wondering exactly what do I talk about, well, talk about something that something that you're passionate for or against right now. And the really cool thing is, you will answer the question about who your audience is and who your audience is not by who you attract and who you turn off. Yeah. I know it sounds kind of odd, but sometimes you got to feel your way through. Yep. This is specifically for the individual that might be wondering, well, how do I plan this out? Maybe I ought to come up with a year launch or something like that. I'm of the variety is, with the technology as it is, get on the air, video, audio, something. At least start getting in the practice of the podcasting. Yeah. I don't know. It sounds like, what do you guys think about that?
I think that that's a great example of just kind of throwing yourself out there, because I'll be honest with you, when we launched the podcast almost 2 years ago, we thought we knew exactly who we wanted to talk to and who we were going to talk to. And that audience has pivoted, because as we got more into it, we realized, oh, well, you know what, there's a lot more to us than there is to that audience that we thought we wanted to talk to. And we pivoted the podcast itself. And that goes back to the brand. So, and being able to pivot, like at first we were talking to, let's just say, digital nomads. And now we've pivoted to only talking to entrepreneurs, branders, marketers, people within the same space that we're in.
Who have found success.
And people who have found success, because that's what we're all about. And that's where we work. And that's where those are the things that we're most comfortable talking about. And it goes back to what you said, talk about what you're passionate about.
And that's a great way to just start. And with podcasting, you're not going to get it right the first time. But if you wait until it's perfect, if you're not embarrassed by the first episode you pushed out, you are way too late. You do me a favor, go to episode 0 for the Creative Hustler and just listen to what a best show that became. And then,
and there's a few.
Definitely preach, Stephen. Definitely preach, because that is, guys, I'm so glad that the folks that we work with are hearing this from different perspectives, is that it will be messy. Fine. Big deal. So what? You get better each time. It's just like all the folks that are, maybe they're Toastmasters that are listening, or people that's on their speaker journey. You eventually gotta get up and just speak. You might be a mess, but you're gonna get better every single time.
And I'll say this, I didn't expect to be on the podcast 2 years ago when we started it. I'm behind the scenes, I'm processes, I like strategy and just kind of like, managing stuff behind the scenes. And the first episode that we did together with a couple of colleagues and I actually really enjoyed it. And that is why I started to, that's why I joined Toastmasters, because I wanted to get better with my voice. I got some feedback from some of the interviewees that we had, and they were telling me how to tweak my voice and use my voice a little bit better. And then I was like, I might just need a little bit of professional help here. I'm going to join Toastmasters. And I did. And it's helped me with my ands and my ums and my buts. Not to say that I'm great. Let's just say that. But it's helped me to be able to speak better and articulate and own the podcast more.
And absolutely.
Bottom line with all of this is one major takeaway that I'm hearing as a reminder again and again and again and again, is that move through this perfectionism. Simply take some sort of action, something, whether it's saying, hey, I could use some support. It may be Melissa, it may be Stephen, it may be Thomas, it may be Bob. Maybe you need a little support. Maybe you need a little coaching. Yeah. Maybe it's just like you already got what you need and you're like, man, what's stopping me from turning on a Facebook Live and calling that a podcast right now? Could be. I mean, there's the wrong answer is sitting here. And the reason I'm harping on this, Stephen and Melissa, is because I have seen this again and again and again with people I've coached over the years, is that it just, nothing happens just sitting at the desk and planning and planning and planning and planning and planning and planning and planning. And maybe I just attract a lot of folks that are constantly in the planning phase.
Yep.
Is that please take some action, please. Yeah. If you need the coaching to take action, reach out.
Yep.
Something.
Somebody an accountability partner,
100%.
Because what you just described is analysis paralysis. You're just constantly analyzing every tiny little detail before you actually get it out there. And
become a stick in the mud.
And you guys know that's what we're doing with Speakers Resource Center, right? I mean, full disclosure, everybody watching this, Bob and I are very open about this. We have other businesses that we've been running.
Yep.
And just people have kept approaching us of like, hey, who would you recommend to be a good facilitator, a trainer, how to learn that? How about creating a brand? How about creating video? And we're like, well, let's just create the Speakers Resource Center. It's a passion project for us. It is. But it sort of is it's turned into kind of like an entity in and of itself, is that it's learning. We're learning as we go. Does that make sense? Like what resonates with people? What do they want? But it wasn't the main thing that we were after. And so we're learning all over again, if that makes sense. So we're sort of learning along with everyone else.
Hey, we're learning every day.
Every project.
So, just getting back into the podcast,
yes.
What makes this really interesting and what makes this really exciting is that when you do it correctly, and correctly lowest barrier to entry correctly, like Thomas just said, is just freaking do it. You're going to have audience. You're going to turn audience that you don't want away, and that's okay. You're not going to be everything to everyone, so just be something to someone. And you're going to eventually turn that into a tribe that will buy anything from you over and over and over and over.
And what's the tribe number? What's the?
We only need 1,000 true fans. You don't need 1 million. You don't need 5 million. If you can get 700 to 1,000 people who believe in you and want what you want and share the same goals and excitement as you, you built a brand business for life.
So, Stephen, what's wrong with 100?
There's nothing wrong with 100, but I like to go a little bit bigger than that. You know,
I think
I'm a big guy. I go a little bit bigger.
I think that goes back to, was it Tim Ferriss's Tribes, the book?
Seth Godin wrote Tribes.
Seth
Godin.
Yeah.
And just, just in regards to tribes.
1,000 true fans.
Yeah. In podcasting, how do we include tribes? How do you include your audience? Well, include them in your show. Shout them out. Mention them. Show them that you care. Do giveaways. Melissa and I do giveaways all the time, whether we're in a way partner or affiliate products that we have, or literally we're giving away $50 a week to someone randomly just because. We just want to make sure that we're staying top of mind and we're always adding value. And I think the biggest thing, and we've talked about the surveying, but the biggest thing is just being consistent. And it goes with anything you do in life. You want to lose weight, don't go to the gym once, go to the gym every day for 5 months. You're going to lose weight because you're consistent. You want to do a podcast one time, do a podcast consistently for a couple months, and that's where you're going to find the real value. The worst thing that you can do is consistently be inconsistent. Because the cold hard truth, guys, it's
good reminder.
Sucks.
Yeah.
It's hard. This is not easy. It's so time consuming that Melissa and I basically had to hire a team. We had to put together a team of assistants and people that we can work with to help us keep consistently.
But you have to when you hand it over to somebody.
Right.
So knowing your product is huge. If you're putting this together, and I'll be honest with you, Stephen and I were a married couple, and we decided to take on this passion project. That wasn't easy. I mean, we're working until 1 o'clock at night some days, doing the show notes, teammates, and it's pretty tough. It's pretty hard. It's not easy to do this. Yeah, sure, every piece of the process might be easy, but it's time consuming, right. And that's exhausting and that's daunting. And if you're not consistent, your listenership will fall off. And we've actually seen that. So we were very consistent for about a good year, and then we kind of dropped off a little bit, and we saw our listenership go down. And I knew it was because our consistency went down.
Absolutely.
So we got, and that's because we decided to change the flow of the show from two shows a week to 2 every other week. And we decided to go back to 2 shows per week, the consistency go back up. And we knew that was what our listenership why it had dropped off.
And those are the expectations that we set.
And our listeners and our audience knew that.
But no matter what, to everyone listening and watching, it's magical and amazing. As long as you can put that commitment in there and you commit to yourself and your audience, it's worth it.
But to go back to consistency, when you tell your audience something, when you tell your audience when you're going to air and when you're going to publish, that's what they're waiting on and that's what they're looking for. And if you consistently tell them that you're going to be there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, then be there on Tuesdays and Thursdays. If you miss a Tuesday or a Thursday, you're going to lose your listenership because they're going to say, well, I mean, they missed this week. What's stopping them from missing next week?
So now the $1 million question. Mm-hmm. Is podcasting for you? Do you really want all of this? Do you really want the opportunity to connect with your influencers and colleagues? Do you really want the opportunity to build a global brand in a sense? Interested in brand future-proof, leveraging the power of podcasting, and we use that word future-proof, really strongly because building a personal brand, and part about podcasting is about personal branding, is that you take that with you wherever you go, from different industry to different jobs, to different companies. You're taking that, you own that. So if you're interested in making podcasting something that can help you future-proof your brand, and if this is really something that you want to invest and work for, and something you're able to commit to, we can help. We got some goods, and we have a couple resources that we want to share with you, because we don't want you to make the mistakes we've made. Because it's cost us, guys, It cost us tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, I'm not just talking about like 10, a lot of money. A lot of sleepless nights.
And that's from our time. That's from putting together the website. That's working with different teams that worked, teams that didn't work, teams that let us down.
Equipment that was right for us, equipment that was wrong for us.
Design work.
It's cost us a lot of sleepless nights, and look at my hairline. Where the hell did it go? It happened before the podcast, but I'm just for dramatic effect, we're saying it. But I don't want you to make those same mistakes because it sucks. And we did it the hard way, and we did it, like a salmon swimming upstream. We had to make those mistakes, but it's our mission and our purpose now to share with our audience and share with those who really want to know the power, how we were able to do it. So we have an exclusive offer for you all for Lace 2018.
And this is outside of the free gift because
this is outside of the free gift.
We still have the free gift.
But first, Melissa, there's a free gift.
I was jumping the gun.
We have a personal branding blueprint that we have put together that really covers the four main core areas or pillars of building a personal brand. So really this blueprint is just to help you think about your brand in a different way, thinking about the story you're telling, the creative ways that you're pushing your message out there, thinking about how you act on social, online versus offline. We don't just talk. A lot of this has been based on online activities, but the truth of the matter is your personal brand is as much offline as it is online these days. And that's where I feel a lot of people are missing. They do a great job of putting themselves online, but the minute that Zuckerberg flips the switch on Facebook or Larry Page flips the switch on Google, what are you left with?
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to tell this story because there's a lot of amazing people online. Their brand looks great. They write amazing stories, amazing copy. But when you meet them, it's like meeting a doornail. And you can't have a conversation with them, and it's not personable, and it's everything that they were online completely different in person. You want to be who you are online and offline all the time. Your personal brand is living and breathing as a human being, and that is what is portrayed on the outside online.
Absolutely.
So the blueprint will go into telling your story, leaving a memorable mark.
Go there.
Your offline and your online brand.
So download it now and check it out. But what we had put together for a lot of our audience was there are a couple main things that need to happen when starting and creating and monetizing a podcast. So we put together a workbook full of 4 checklists that will have you up and running in a matter of minutes as opposed to a matter of days. And this goes into equipment. It goes into how to get guests on your podcast and how to guests.
Who's guests?
Stan Getz.
We didn't have him on the podcast.
Philly.
He's dead. But
it's just a Philly accent, guys. It's just a Philly accent.
So we had put together these worksheets that we leverage for ourselves. We're constantly updating them based on the latest and greatest. Because again, this shouldn't be such a uphill battle. This should be really easy. And then it comes down to when creating a podcast, well, who is my audience? And this is great for anyone in business, is to find your personas. So Melissa and I are branding and marketing consultants, and one of the main parts of building a solid brand and a solid brand strategy is not just defining your personas, but understanding your personas. Because when we can understand who your true audience is and what exactly they're looking for, especially in a podcast, we can now provide them with the value, content, and resources that they need to continue this harmonious relationship.
And this gives you a great insight on who you would like to talk to out of the gate instead of just shooting towards the stars. You have to have some kind of an idea of who you want to talk to, but it also gives you an insight as to what you want to talk about with those people, where they live on the internet, what they're talking about on the internet, where they hang out offline, and how you can connect with them in your real day-to-day life, online and offline.
So personas are so imperative for any kind of business success, and even more so imperative when it comes down to podcasting. So we come to the question now, like, what does this really worth to you? We have some prices on there. We sell the podcasting bundle for $88 and the personas for $99, but what is it really worth? Is it really worth the countless hours of researching the best of podcasting when we can give it to you? Or what about the thousands of dollars in wrong software, bad microphones, and hardware that isn't scalable for your needs? Trust me, I have a bag of equipment that we bought that I will never use again because it just wasn't right for us. But I was impulsive and I made those.
But let's not talk about that one time where we were at Guitar Center and I said, get the 4 input plugs, and you got the 2 input plugs. And ever since then, we've needed the 4 input plugs. So we bought the 2, and then we had to buy the 4, which in the long run was more money, because if you expect to interview people more than 2, more than 3, then you're going to need more inputs, and you don't want to have to pay double.
You need to think about scalability. And what is this really worth to you? The sleepless nights, the burned out retinas, and honestly, guys, on a few occasions, that's what I looked like before I got beat up by Melissa. That's what Melissa looked like. No, if there are some tough conversations that we've had to have, and there have been some tough conversations that we've engaged with regarding the podcast, because we didn't know who our personas were. We didn't have these checklists to help us determining what we need, what we don't need, how to reach out to people. We made every mistake in the book so that we can write these guides for you. So what you're getting, again, you're getting the podcasting workbook with 4 checklists, the ultimate persona guide. You know, these 2 things right here are crazy valuable. And then as a bonus, we mentioned it in the beginning, we're going to throw in our growth mindset for entrepreneurs ebook.
It's a workbook.
It's a workbook.
So we guide you through, I think there's about
12 or 13 questions that you should be asking yourself as an entrepreneur frequently, because like Socrates says, the unexamined life is not worth living. Well, the unexamined entrepreneur is not worth making a business. So let's just be real. And, I think if we can align our mindset to our outputs, we're going to be that much more successful and be able to add that much more value to our audience. So again, what you're getting these 3 guides: to create a monetize your podcast bundle, to define your personas guidebook, and the growth mindset for entrepreneurs workbook. Honestly, we normally would charge hundreds of dollars for this content. To work with Melissa and I alone, it is thousands of dollars. For our consulting fees, but because we have such an awesome relationship with Thomas and Bob and everyone over at in the Toastmasters community, the LACE community, the Speakers Resource Center, we want to do an exclusive offer for everyone today for $67, where you're going to be able to download all 3 guides. Normally that's $234 worth of value, but today only you're going to get it for $67 if you just go to thecreativehustle.com/LACE18, and you'll have all the information there. So
thanks, guys.
Yeah. Any questions for us, Thomas? Anything we might have missed that you want to jump in on?
No, I do want to add something right here. And Stephen, I know you have an appointment back and right up to this. So I want to be conscious of your time as well. Listen, personally from Bob and I mean, if you're listening to this, you know our heart. If you know us, if you have connected one-on-one with us, it is always our intention to bring you the best resources, something that helps us sleep at night. And I'm going to tell you right now, Bob and I've talked about this before, is that I love Melissa and Stephen. It's funny. We need a lot of, it's true. It's like, because
we're sending you hearts.
we send, there's lots of people that come to us, and we've invested thousands of our money as well. For me, hundreds of thousands. No joke. I'm not even joking. And I put a lot of money into things, and I've seen some really crappy service providers, some total scammy type stuff, and people are just in it for, there's no other way to put it. There's no heart in it. It's just money, 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 and there's no love, there's no generosity, there's no compassion. And Bob and I are very, very picky, sometimes to the degree of like, nah, I don't want you to talk to our people because I don't know. If you can't deliver, then I'm going to be not just pissed off, but I'm going to be disappointed. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? And this is our family. This is our family. So one thing I can say for sure is not only did you guys have some of the most popular feedback at Leadership Communications Expo, I've heard from the people at Toastmasters 7, San Diego Toastmasters 7, very, very tight-knit family, which I was a part of as well. And I just know you're the real deal. So I really want to recommend and put our endorsement for those that are watching in the Speakers Resource Center, take some action. Connect with them. Connect with Melissa and Stephen in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and we're open books, so you can always email us. It's Melissa at thecreativehustler.com or Stephen with a V at thecreativehustler.com if you have any questions on any of this.
Just connect with us. That's all we can ask for. So, Thomas, I appreciate what you and Bob are doing and for having us not only at Lace, but to be able to follow up here. And, we look forward to working together, for years.
Please come back, guys, because please come back, or, if you have an angle that's going to help folks that are on the speaker, trainer, facilitator journey, some like angle, and you want to share some content or come back over on a podcast or do a webinar, please do.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome
Thank
to.
you for that.
And even though we are literally in a snowstorm right now, we'll be back in sunny San Diego
We are.
in May.
As you can see, I just got back from the East Coast myself because I'm on the road every week.
Yeah.
And as you can see, I think I'm going to get a sunburn in the last 45 minutes that we've been here.
I gotta
San
go.
Diego.
It was a pleasure, and I will chat with you all later. Thanks, Thomas.
Bye. Thanks again.
Okay.